Good morning, DesignXL. All right, make sure I have this thing turned the right way. Yes, we do. All right, like I said, welcome to DesignXL. My name is Scott Fuller. I have 44 minutes and 29 seconds to get through what has been a crazy, really start to my career in design, so bear with me. It's going to be colorful, it's going to be bright. I'm going to try to wake all y'all up this morning. Hi. Special thanks to Rachel, her entire team. There are so many people who have helped out or done or have touched part of what I do or helped me and gotten flights and hotels and everything like that. There's no way I can remember them all. So let's give one more round of applause to each and all these folks who have had a big part in making DesignXL possible. Fantastic venue. And thanks to y'all for coming out. This is great. I can't see too many of y'all. The lights are really bright up here, so if I go like this, it's just so I can make sure you guys are still awake. All right, I am from Atlanta. I'm a Georgia native, born and raised. I'm basically what I'm going to do, and this thing is really sensitive this morning. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through kind of my life, starting the year I was born. Don't worry, this part won't take very long. And just kind of go through and give you guys an overview of where I've come from, what I've gone through. For those of y'all who don't know, I run the Studio Temporary. You can follow that along or do whatever you'd like. I'm slightly nervous this morning. Give me about 2 more minutes and I'll be good. But the title of my talk is Scott Fuller, Human Being. And if you saw my little intro vid a couple weeks ago, I hear a lot of talks and a lot of things. We're going to hear some amazing talks today. I've heard some of my career, and it's a lot about here's all the good things that have happened. And I'm going to touch on some good things. But I'm also going to touch on a lot of the things that did not go so well. All right? So let's jump right in. 1985, born to Mike and Mary Fuller, my lovely parents. My mom was a school teacher. And my dad is a machinist, has been for just shy of 40 years. Great childhood. I had plenty of Legos, Hot Wheels, different things like that. Painted. Anybody remember those little Crayola watercolors? It was like 5 little colored discs that never showed any color whatsoever. I painted under the table with a bunch of those. That was fun. Always drawing, always creating, always doing these things. A typical artist, designer upbringing. And but I played a lot of sports, baseball, basketball, street hockey for a couple of years. That was a lot of fun. Thankfully, still have all my teeth from that. But I get into school though, and I'm not doing so much of art. I'm doing a lot of math. Now I know that's kind of a iffy word for designers these days, but what is it? My original degree, my original major at college was going to be mechanical engineering. I did trig and physics and calculus and stuff in high school, and that's what it was going to be, but something just wasn't quite right. So I went and visited my now alma mater, PCC, and I spent about 5 minutes in the engineering lab and spent the rest of the time in the art department, where I met people like Jason Montgomery and some people here know these names: Jason Montgomery, Missy Lawrence, Aaron Ebert. He's here this morning, and all these awesome people. And I said, no, this is going to be it. So 2002, I jumped in to this. Now I knew nothing about design. I knew nothing about art. I'd never had any training. Nothing had ever, I'd never taken any classes or whatnot, and I happened to be part of this class. My goodness, more talent. I've never seen more talent in one room than this class we were in, and I was completely out of my depth. But thankfully, and this is something that I've learned too, there was in that entire class, there was no competitors. We pushed each other and pushed each other hard. And for me, it's a lot of the same way when I look at design in my career where I am right now. I don't look at if somebody else gets a job and I missed it, good on them. They deserved it. I missed it. I'll get the next one. But it's not about, for me, it was never about competition. It was just, I'm constantly pushing myself to do better, to be better. And that's where I learned so much of that, was there at school in that class where I was at the bottom tier, for sure. Graduated in 2008. I met my lovely wife, Julie, while I was there. We, this December, will be 11 years that we've been married. We have an 8-year-old little boy named Sean. We have a little gray cat named Ella, who was very, very mad that I left. She always gets mad at me when I leave. So that was happening. Now, 2008 is when things started to go really well and then really bad. So I graduated in 2008, and 2008 was a pretty rough year for a lot of things. Very specifically, finding a job right out of school. Now, I did get an internship right out of college. I was working at a place in Atlanta called the Jones Group, and when it became Brand Fever. And for 4 months, I worked there. For the first month and a half that I was there, I did not know that I had a desk. I was in the back in this little room, about a quarter of the size, it was about the size of these letters. Very small room, and the only tools that I used for the first month and a half that I was on that job was X-Acto knives, spray glue, paper, and a little bit of Scotch tape for the first month and a half. I never saw my desk. Now, a lot of people nowadays might look at that and go, I didn't get a design to do this. I didn't get a design to do that. You got me this job, and I'm doing all this stuff, and why am I back here doing that? I just figured it was part of the deal. I didn't think I was being initiated or anything like that. It was just, no, I have to learn this. I have to learn that. And I busted my tail to make sure that I did everything. And it was stuff for America's Mart, for like working for Coca-Cola, all their big clients, all of these mock-ups and presentations. I was the one putting those together, right? So after a month and a half, I get to my desk for the first time, and they awarded me as an intern with an account. My first ever logo design, professional logo design, and it's still being used almost 12 years later, which is insane. Now, my wife and I, we got married, and then I promptly got laid off of work for the next 2 years. These are some of the list of my jobs. I work for UPS. I work for 2 different machine companies as the grunt boy, the worst, nastiest, dangerous job, whatever. 2 different places there. I worked at a Subway for about 2 weeks. Don't ever work at a Subway. I worked at a Minuteman Press, and then I found myself at an Apple store. And it wasn't even a real Apple store. It was called Peach Mac. I couldn't even get a job at a real Apple store, right? We had to, it was horrible. Those first couple years were nuts. And Julie and I were, just going through all that stuff, and it was insane. So here I am. It's 2010. It's around Christmas of what was it? No. I'm sorry. January of 2011. I'm in the Apple store, and I sell the computer to the right person. That one perfect guy who comes in, right? Turns out he owned a trucking company off of Truckers Row and Moreland Avenue in Atlanta, just outside of Atlanta. And I told him a little bit. At this point, the only thing that I was using design for was as a sales tool. How bad is that, right? And this is 3 years out of college. And he said, well, I might have some freelance work for you. I want you to come up and check it. Okay, great, let's do this. So I take a half day off work. I go up there. I meet him. He says, hey. He asked me to update his iPad. I said no. And then he said that I actually don't have any freelance work for you. Well, at this point, I'm really upset, trying not to show it. I took a half day, I'm doing this. And he said, no, you don't understand. He said, I want to hire you full-time to run all the design. We're talking catalogs, we're talking everything like that, signage, packaging, identity design, everything, just for that company. And I became the director of in-house design for Global Parts Incorporated, running a team consisting solely of me. As you can see, this has not changed much in the last few years. But I'll never forget that day, because I went home that night freaking out, and it was so amazing. And then my wife comes running in our room, and she's pregnant. All that happened that same day in January of 2011. So finally, things are looking up. And it was rough those first couple of years. But in 2012, something happened. We lived in downtown Newnan. We were living in a loft at the time. And I got a chance to work on some new branding for a restaurant there in downtown Newnan. Well, then I got a chance to work with the sign painter and the guy who was building the sign for it, and I found this awesome little place called PSS Signs in downtown Noonan, in this little house, in this little back room, and we were back there working away on the sign, and it was about a 2 or 3 minute walk from where I lived at that time. And I asked him, would it be okay if I use this back room when you're not here? Which is a great thing to ask somebody if you've just met them. I don't do that. He's an older gentleman, super, super nice man. And we got to know each other a little bit, and then he gave me a key. Actually, if you go back to right here, if you look at that second picture to the right, just under the steps, there was a little nail, and there was a little key, and that's where my key was kept. And I'd go there every night, man. Sorry, going the wrong direction. I'd go there every night, work away. This was back when the beard was nothing but a little bit of peach fuzz. Look where it's come now. So this was about 7 years ago. Now, as a joke, one night, I decided to call the place the Studio Temporary. Now, I'm like, we'll just call it a place, or whatnot, that's fine. But then I read an interview by one of my favorite designers, Alan Fletcher, one of the founding partners of Fletcher, Forbes, and Gill, or as we commonly know it, Pentagram. He was asked, what is the most important tool in your studio? And his answer, like the awesome designer he said, it's my head. I went back to the studio that night, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. So I came up with this idea of good design wherever I happened to be, and the Studio Temporary was born. Now, this is where things get really bad. I had to talk to my wife and really get a couple years ago to really get her permission to just say, I want to tell everything that happened. But you're part of this. I have to have your blessing on this. She said, tell everything. So I'm going to tell everything. Out of the blue, I got laid off of my the job at the trucking company. Out of the blue, no clue. Couldn't find work. Nothing was happening. Kept falling farther behind. And in 2012, we came home one Wednesday evening to an eviction notice on our door. This was 6 years ago. This was not that long ago. You talk about a punch in the gut. We had 3 days, and we had to be out. There was no way I could pay the money at the time. And during that time, there was no way. And it'll be burned in my mind for the rest of my life. But my wife and I sitting in an empty loft apartment, Sunday morning about 2 a.m. And I'm like, this is not supposed to happen. This is not supposed to be my life. This was, none of this was supposed to happen, right? We had to move back in with my parents. All these things happened. And then in 2015, I was able to get a job at I was able to get a job at a place up in Kennesaw, and we got to move up there, and things seemed to be going well. And then once again, some guy in the company messed up. Out of the blue, here comes, all right, you're laid off again. Ironically, I was supposed to walk that day they got me as I was I'm literally out the door, walking out the door to go meet my wife and my little boy for lunch. I said, hey, can you come back here? This will just take a second. And laid me off. My creative director wouldn't even look me in the face. It was nuts. So we get out to the car, and I'm carrying a box of all my stuff, right? We're sitting in the car, and my wife said, I'm tired of this. I'm just tired of all this. And then the next words have literally been what set my career on this path for the last almost 5 years. She said, if you're going to start your own company, do it now. The lowest point of my life at that point. She said, if you're going to do it now. She said, that way, if things go wrong, you have no, it's just on you. And you kind of control that. And I said, okay, let's do it. So I started making calls. In 45 minutes, I had 5 meetings. And now here we are almost 5 years later. and it's been absolutely bonkers. In 2016, I got a chance to work with in downtown Atlanta on Switchyard's downtown club. I got to design the sign that is painted on the front of a 90-year-old building. I got my studio. I worked there, and I got a chance to work with the Hawks and meet all these different startup folks and have really kind of be a part of the fabric and culture of Atlanta. And it was insane. And all of this happened because, some guy said, "Hey, have you met this person?" That's how so many things in my life have happened, and it's been insane. And I'm just, this is kind of where I come to work every day. Look how happy I am, I mean, this is insane. And then the fact that I get to do this, I get to come into work every day, and I get to do this, and get to work with the people that I love, and have time for my family, and have that flexibility. It's been incredible. And then to get to come here and tell the story to y'all, oh, it's insane. Now, what I want to do really quick is I want to show you guys some of the work that I've done just over the last couple years. Now, it's been a little quiet and tame up to this point, but I'm going to change that really quick for about a little over, maybe like a minute and 10 seconds or something. Hit it. That has been my career for the last couple of years. Oh my goodness. It's so weird and surreal seeing that each time I do that. Some of that, I'd say, I don't know how much that works. Some of it was just for fun. Some of it was for bigger brands. Some of it was for little brands. Some of it was for a mom and pop shop around the corner. It's insane that I've had a chance to do some of these things, and I don't know. It's crazy, but I'm thankful. I'm blessed to get a chance to work on these things. Now, what I'm going to do really quick, I've got about 26 minutes. We're almost there, you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit about my day-to-day. I'm going to go through one or two little projects to kind of illustrate a few points, and then leave you with a few things to remember, and then we'll all be set. All right. So this is my mantra: freedom to work, freedom to live. It's kind of funny. I come up with a lot of these mantras about the time it's time for me to design some new merch, but. This is what I've wanted. I wanted a chance to do the work. I wanted a chance to live my life, and that kept getting cut short for all those years. And then I jumped out on my own, and with the blessing, I had a chance to make a pennant with that, which was really cool. Now, this is where things get interesting. I have never been the most talented person. I have not had some of the best opportunities, especially in my early career. But one thing that I learned is this: you just show up and do the work. It's not about I show up and I make this big, this big project, or I make this big, thing or whatnot. It's just showing up each morning, getting your coffee, whatever your drink of choice is. You get up there in the morning, make your list. do the work, go home, eat or whatnot. You get up the next morning and you do it again, and you continue to do this thing. This is my day-to-day. This is my list. This is what the first part of my day looks like. I'll get there in the studio in the morning, I'll have prayer, and then I'll jump straight into my notebooks, making my list for the day, a couple of quick doodles just to kind of get my mind right, and then jump in there. And this is what I do. I make a nice long to-do list. I make a to-do list that's almost impossible to get done in a single day, but I do my best to do it. Because if you put down one or two things, I got the list done, I'm fine. No. I want to push myself to continue to do this. This idea of rise and grind is not original to me, but this is kind of my take on it. I'm up in the morning and I'm getting the work done. And it's just that constant showing up, staying late, doing whatever it takes to get the work done. Don't take no for an answer. As designers, we deal with rejection so well, right? We love it when people come back with constructive criticism. We love when people turn down what we consider to be some of our best ideas, right? No. Now, for me, not only was it, I couldn't take no for an answer, but it also opened my world to this thing called typeface design. I did it was like 4 or 5 characters for this logo, and it got turned down, and I just could not get this out of my mind. So I came up with this little typeface. I called it Solid 70. And then that year at Creative South, this would be 2016, I met, has anybody ever heard of Retro Supply? Dustin Lee. I met Dustin Lee at Creative South. And we got to meet each other. And not only did he like this typeface so much, he actually commissioned me to finish designing it. Something that I would not let anybody turn down. He was able to let me convert it into my first ever typeface. So of course I made specimen posters. I got to use it about a week after it came out. There was a Pechacucha event that I was speaking at. It was their 25th event. They asked me to design the poster, and I said, I've got the perfect typeface for it. So this is the first recorded use in human history of Solid 70 for an actual professional project. From then, I've gone on to design a few more. I love type design. It speaks to a very meticulous, I have really meticulous nature from the whole mathematics background to my dad being a machinist. So I've done a few, most of these you can actually find on Retro Supply. You got like Firebox, Authority, a Transistor, and then a little diner typeface down there. I just came out with a new typeface about 3 weeks ago. This is called Obsessed Compressed. You can see why it is called that. I love extended typefaces. I love really, really compressed typefaces. So I had a really good time making that. Do it just because. Has anybody ever heard of King of Pops? King of Pops, anybody? They're based out of Atlanta. It was 2 brothers that started that, the Karst brothers. They came to do a talk at Switchyards, where my studio was. This is a few years back. And for the talk, just out of the blue, I just made this little A-Town little popsicle to kind of, just like, hey, he's going to be here. Not really thinking anything more of it other than that. Well, he came up and talked to me later and said, you know what, we need to make something. We need to make something cool. So we did. We made this, made this awesome little badge for him. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. He's like, but we need to make something else. So we did. Made my first ever King of Pop t-shirt made of the ATL. There it is for reals. This is not a mock-up. This is for reals. One of my favorite Atlanta brands. I got to stop by last week and just kind of visit with them for a little bit. We've got some fun new stuff in the works. But, all of this happened just because I just wanted to do something. You never, ever, ever know what is going to happen when you just put something out in the world. And this happened to me on a much bigger level, and I'll show you that in just a second. Do whatever it takes. How many of y'all have, you have these brands out there and you say, if they call, I'll drop everything and I'll do whatever it takes. I'm going to make this thing happen because I just want to work for these folks. Everybody has that brand, right? The client or something like that. Well, for me, it was this guy, Johnny Cupcakes. Johnny Earl, as he is, before his moniker or whatnot, one of the nicest guys that I've ever had the opportunity to talk to. We've been so close to meeting so many times. We just haven't been able to do that. But in the last year and a half, he's kind of become a mentor to me, which has been phenomenal. He's got so much just really good information to give, and one of the nicest people that I've ever talked to. But they used a couple. Okay, this is where it's all going to come together. A lot of things in my life, I talked to a few folks about this yesterday. We say, oh, this comes full circle. There is no circle in any of this. It goes from here to here to here to here. It never connects. It just, it never comes back to completion. It's just all these really connecting things. So I said no. I said, I'm not going to let anybody say no to the typeface. So I did that. Most of those typeface designs have been used at some point or another by Johnny Cupcakes. One of his illustrators is a friend of mine who pitched me to him, who heard about the typefaces, who called me out of the blue at 9 p.m. the day before I'm about to head to a design conference. And I've already got everything planned. I've got my days booked. He said, I want you to do these 2 T-shirts for me. Great, when do you need them? See, it was Tuesday night. He needed them Thursday by lunch. Now, I've already got my days planned. I've got all of this stuff all set out. But I said, you know what? If I turn this down over something petty like that, there is no way I'm going to get another opportunity to work with this man. So I said, absolutely. I got into the studio next morning at 6 a.m., and off we got to work. So based on a couple of sketches that Johnny and I worked out, these were for the flagship store in Boston. So, of course, we got a big old Massachusetts with a nice stubbly beard and flexing that awesome Johnny Cupcakes tattoo. Yes, the state does have a bigger bicep than me, but it looks really cool on a shirt. And then these guys, if you've ever been to Boston, the red line, the green line, I got a chance to work on these guys. The green one's kind of like the old school Celtics, kind of guy with the mustache, and then like the new school, almost like a Red Sox kind of a thing. And these are not mock-ups. These are the actual shirts, which is really, really cool. And then, this was fun. For a few years, he was making a zine, a special zine, like every month and a half or so, every other month. This was the centerfold of the magazine 2 months after I finished this project, and it details how he and I worked together, which was insane. He sent me this huge care package, this box or whatnot. I've got like a half a dozen of these things just like sitting at some place around the studio. But I made sure I did not want to turn down this opportunity just because, maybe I could go do this or maybe I could go do that. You got to do that. Now, this goes back to, just kind of putting the work out there and see what happens. Got to work for the Atlanta Hawks. This was August of last year. And this project, or this piece that I have up here right now, was for a failed project for another larger sports network. And project ended up being killed, but I was really, really happy with this particular piece. I love Atlanta sports, the Hawks, the Atlanta United, if we have any Atlanta United fans in here, the Atlanta Braves, as you can tell, representing. And I just wanted to put this thing up there. About a month later, I get a call. Hi, Scott, this is Shirley Zhang. I'm the Executive Creative Director of the Atlanta Hawks. Do you have time to come in tomorrow for a meeting? And you take that fake 10 seconds to check your schedule, and let me check, and you're basically like strolling through Instagram, you're like, yeah, not a problem. I come by and I hang up the phone and I start squealing. I'm like, oh my God. The whole second floor there in the building was like, is Scott okay? But they asked me to work on this thing. Now, is anybody familiar with esports, like gaming or something like that? So the NBA started a sanctioned 2K league, and all of the teams are part of each of the individual NBA franchises. So the Lakers have one, the Kings have one, the Grizzlies, and so on and so forth. Well, this year they were introducing 4 new teams, and Atlanta was going to be one of them. Now, here is the fun part. All the other teams up to this point have been designed by Nike's agency of record. The same folks that are putting out all the NBA jerseys, redesigning all these different things. It was a Nike agency that had been doing all this. I was the first person to get a chance to do this that wasn't a Nike, which was nuts. They wanted somebody local, which was amazing. So we went up there, had a talk. Now, this is where it's going to get fun. At the end of the email, in 2018, people, it said, don't forget to bring your portfolio. For an NBA team in 2018. Okay. You'll see them tonight. But I have this poster with about 200 something of my logos on it. It's about 24 by 36, big old thing. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to take him one of those. And I happen to have a red one with black and white, ink on there. So I took it up there under my arm, had the meeting, and they said, all right, so let's share your work. And I said, well, I couldn't find it. I said I didn't want to go to Kinko's. They didn't have any sleeves left. I got to stain them. I'm whatever. I said I didn't have a portfolio, but I have something better. So this is literally what happened. I brought out the poster. I rolled it out on this big desk. I paperweighted it on both ends. I sat back, crossed my legs, and said, there are over 200 pieces of design on there that I've done. I said, ask me about any one of them. I will tell you when I did it, who I did it for, and a story behind it. 5 minutes later, I had the job. And it came to this. This is Atlanta. This is Hawks Talon GC, or Gaming Club. I didn't have very long to do this, a couple of weeks to do this thing. But we got down to work. Hundreds of variations, dozens of logo options and stuff like that, and we made it happen. One of the best teams I've ever worked with. Now, this is cool. This is where it gets even cooler, right? I got to design the court that is rendered within the game. This is all digital. I got a chance to work with their in-house team to design the jerseys, a little home version, away version. And are there any NBA fans in here? Okay, I had to ask. The Hawks are known for the red, yellow, and black. They went back to this ugly Volt green. I brought back the yellow, and it's probably my biggest thing. This is on a New Era cap, which is insane. When you do something for the NBA, it is everywhere in an instant. I could not believe it. Then, this is the actual team, the digital team. And these are the actual guys behind the team. I got a chance to meet all them and get the hat signed and whatnot, and that was insane. But it all stemmed from a failed project. I asked her, how did you decide you wanted to work with me? She said, I was going through Instagram and our tags or whatnot, and that came up. A failed project turned into easily one of the biggest projects of my career. Put the work out there. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what it was from. I don't care what you think of it. Just put it out there. I promise you, people are paying attention. Now, really, really quick, I've got about 12 minutes. In other news, I had a new website. I've been doing this for over a decade. I've never had a website. This has been up for about 4 months now. I have a first website. It is responsive. It is yellow, very yellow, and I love it. Thanks to my buddy Colin up at Terminus, the Terminus agency out in Cali for doing this. It's been fun. I have a rep now. Adam Smasher is the agency. They sold me 80% of the way just on the name. We're working through a bunch of stuff right now, which I'm really excited with. Thanks to my buddy Jason Karn for the intro. I got a chance to work for this awesome little ice on demand company out of Atlanta. From there, we got to make bins and trailers and big trucks and everything, T-shirts. I was actually wearing one of the hoodies when I got off the plane yesterday. A fantastic Atlanta brand. Anybody familiar with Inch by Inch? Okay, Bob Ewing and Drew Hill put this incredible thing together, all about helping art programs and whatnot in schools. I have been bugging them for 3 years to give me an opportunity to work on this thing, and I finally got the opportunity at Creative South this year. So I got a chance to do a little peach. Here's all my designs, my local stuff. I got my peach. I got my little Empire State. Has anybody ever eaten at the Varsity in Atlanta? God bless each and every one of you who whooped. the cheapest colon cleanse you'll ever get. When you go there, you have to go there. You get two chili dogs, you get onion rings, you get the orange freeze. I mean, you go there, right? So it was like a once a year thing for me. So I got the 2 chili dogs right there with the very important little strip of mustard right up the middle. And then here it is in the works. Just so much fun to get to for those guys. My buddy Chris Logston out of Chattanooga, the Godspeed Company. I got a chance to make some shop rags for him. My A-Town design. This has gone bonkers. I saw something. This is, once again, I saw something that I liked, but my version of it wasn't out there. So I wanted to make sure I got it out there. And now it's a neon. Now it's on a shirt. And now it is a flag for Atlanta United, in their the Resurgence section at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It was phenomenal. It's a massive flag. So I am like down. If this is the flag, if we're looking at this, I'm probably like down here somewhere. This is a massive, massive flag. I got the first match it went out there. My phone was blowing up. It was absolutely incredible. But I got to hand paint this thing with a friend of mine, which was nuts. Some icons for America Clothing Company out of Marietta. Got a chance to work for my hometown Braves, the Art in the Park series, and had a great time with this one. Got to make a bat, Mitchell Bat Company. He asked me to be part of the All-Star series. It was me, John Catino, and seven other folks. I'm trying to remember everybody off the top of my head. But that should be sitting in my studio by the time I get home, which I'm really excited about. Patch for Oakhurst Porch Fest. Some more, stuff for here in Opelika, Alabama. My new typeface. Okay, very, very quickly, a pitch. Go to kernclub.com. You can pick up this typeface for a very, very good price. Support my buddies Dustin Noden and Sam Nelson, or Sam Berghini as they call him in streetwear. Fantastic folks. Check them out, kernclub.com. They have some free typefaces on there. They have some paid ones. Go check them out. Great folks. Had a chance to work with them. Made some cool things. I'm going to make a stamp whenever I can. I got to do an icon design class workshop. I've done some in Atlanta. I got to fly out to Phoenix and do one in September, which is a lot of fun. I take them through my process and do that. Of course, I get to make a little poster and whatnot for it. Is anybody a Run the Jewels fan? So this is, for anybody who don't know, this is Killer Mike from Atlanta, kind of a legend. I met him through the Hawks. Once he found out what I was doing, I met him that first night in the arena. He gave me his cell that first night. He said, "Man, we're going to make some cool stuff." And we did. But once again, back to Atlanta. We were supposed to meet up, and at this little seafood restaurant, he called me up and he says, "Where are you?" I'm almost there. "Man," he said, we can't talk old school design at a seafood place." He's like, "That's where I take my wife, man." He said, "We're going to go to the Varsity." So some little kid snapped this picture of us at the Varsity. I got to make some cool stuff for his barbershop, which ironically is where I get my beard and hair done. Working on a little something else, more on this later on this year. Now, very, very quickly, I'm going to have to do lightning round on this thing. So I've got about 6 minutes. If you guys were asleep during the first part, weren't paying attention, that's fine. Please pay attention to this one. This is some things that I've learned, and this is how serious I am. By the way, that's Lenny Terenzi right there in the front. And those big mitts around my neck, that's Mike Jones. And I'm holding a war stick bat. Shout out to Ben Jenkins. Okay, very quickly. First of all, have some respect for your other people, for other creatives, for your waiter and your waitress at a restaurant. I have seen people lose work because of how they treated people. Have some respect. That stuff will stay with you, right? Now, this is not something we talk about a lot. We're very obsessed with what we do. I am. But this is also true. when I was going through that worst time in my life, I was literally lying to myself that I can do this. You do that long enough, you start to believe it, which is basically what happened to me. I was working in my 40, 50-hour week job, and then I was coming home and putting in another, however many hours. Every night I was at the studio. Every night I was trying to work, doing this thing, whether it was making money or not. I missed the first year of my kid's life. I can't get that time back. I can't. He's growing up now. He's 8. He's this tall. He's 8 years old. How does a kid grow that fast? He's going to be taller than my wife by the time he turns 9. And I missed part of that. I'm thrilled with where I am right now, but it comes with a cost sometimes, But we learned a lot. My wife and I have become stronger together because of it. There is no way in the world that I make it through any of this without her. My lovely wife, Julie. Thank you. If she ever sees this, thank you so much, sweetheart. I love you. Take time for others, just in general. Be aware. Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for people, having, in trouble or, just having a bad day. You drive through Starbucks, take a time and pay for the person behind you. That'll make their day. You all know, I'm sure some folks have had that happen to them. Try to do that for them. This is probably one of the most important things in my talk. Your name will be remembered long after your work turns to nothing but dust and pixels. Your name will be remembered far longer than any amazing piece of art, design, branding, whatever you put out. And what will that name mean? Think about that. Now, also, this is also true. Different is okay. For me, we talk about Scott Fuller, the title of this is, human being. That's how I see people. Each and every one of us, I don't care where you're from. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care. I look at each and every person as a human being and realizing that each and every one of us are different and are special for that. And I'm starting to sound like Mr. Rogers here a little bit, but it's true, And I'm not going to go up against anybody for being a little different than me or for, or vice versa. And one of the last things, there are no excuses. Even me going through all of that stuff that I went through, I still had to put in the time. I still had to figure this stuff out. I didn't get a pass because I got evicted. I didn't get a pass because I got laid off or we had to move back in with the folks. I didn't get a pass with all that. But there are no excuses. And lastly, but not least, after all the craziness that I've put you through, this roller coaster ride of my life, remember, this stuff is fun, right? I mean, who thinks this is fun? This is fun what we get to, come on. This is fun what we get to do. I love doing this. I cannot wait to get up in the morning. I love my sleep. Don't get me wrong, but I really wish sometimes it would go just a little faster so I can get up in the morning and get back in there and do that. I love being around my family. I love being around a community like this, being able to travel and talk. This is all just the icing on the cake. This is not what doing right here. This is not why I got into design. I wanted to do the work. But the fact that I'm getting a chance to do this with these incredible people, to meet each and every one of you has been incredible. And, and I always remember, this is, design is my career. This is my world. It's my lovely wife, Julie, my little boy, Sean. And, get to go have a little fun at Disneyland last year. The coolest part of my year. He walks up to Mickey, we're doing a little thing. He walks up to Mickey and goes, "My dad's an artist just like you." Mickey, whoever's behind the little, he calls me over and gives me a bit. There's another picture somewhere in there of Mickey giving me a huge hug. The coolest part of my career. My son looks up to me for that and then introduced me to Mickey. I love it. So, thank you so much for your attention. Please enjoy the rest of the conference. And, man, thank you. Thank you so much.